Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome to You Shut Your Mouth podcast with Duke Durango. I'm here with my guest today, an old friend of mine from way, way back in the day, Luther from AEW. So proud to have you on the show. Welcome, and thank you so much for giving me your time, brother.
Thank you, Jordan, man. This is awesome.
Yeah, hey, so what have you been doing? I mean, you and I haven't seen each other a ton, obviously. I know you're on AEW. We were in big contact up until, about 87 when you kind of started trading and went on the road. What was that road like?
Well, it's been crazy. Travel the world, and now with AEW, it's just been amazing. Like it's such a great company to work for, and just having a great time.
Right on, man. Right on. So you started, kind of, like you think 87.
First, before we even get into this, like, think about something that I've thought about this, and I've told people this little story here. This is so crazy. When we grew up, we were like, what, 5, 6, kind of, we grew up in a condo unit, right? Like a complex thing. You guys were like 6 condos away from me. Like we grew up pretty much like neighbors.
Yeah, there was one condo block between us.
And I mean, you guys were at my house, pretty much like lived at my house all the time, right? Like, but think about, I ended up moving away when I think we were all going into high school, or like me and
you and Dean I think we're going into high school.
And then we moved away, but we didn't lose contact, but we didn't really talk as much as we used to. But think about, both of you guys got into wrestling and I got into wrestling at different times, different, same Hart Brothers, but different Hart Brothers kind of thing. And I think that's just crazy. That's wild.
And this just came to me right now, looking back on it, the fact that we didn't reach out to you and ask what we were getting into, morons.
But there was no social, this wasn't a thing then either.
Yeah, well, I think at that time, I think when we broke in, and I could be full of shit, but I think you were based out of Vancouver then, were you not? Because we started in 96, I think we started.
Oh yeah, I had already moved to Vancouver.
Right. Yeah. So like you say, there was no social media. I didn't know how to get a hold of you. Last night it was kind of like, I know, Luther and Lonnie are living out in Van, and that was about it.
Yeah. Because I was still in Calgary, based in Calgary for a long time, but I was going to Japan, and that layover and just that 1 hour flight and the layover used to was killing me. So I just cut that out. So I just went from Vancouver.
Well, it cuts probably, by the time you have any type of layover and the extra flight, probably no less than 3-4 hours.
Oh, totally. Yeah. And it's always the worst coming back, because you're so, I just want to be home at that point.
Going there, you're excited to get there. Coming home, you just want to get home.
Plus you're beat up coming back, because you're there for like a month or more, and it's just like, I just want to basically sleep in my own bed and sleep for 2 days.
Yeah, no kidding, and recoup. Well, how bad was the jet lag for you? Like, I've always been told, it's a day for 1 hour time change. Was it something that you found really kicked the shit out of you coming home?
It would be not too bad. Like sometimes, because I'd be home for like a week, 2 weeks, sometimes a month. But like if it was a quick turnover, it wasn't too bad.
Right.
But I was a night owl anyway. I still am. So it really wasn't too much of a difference in the change for me. So it was not too bad.
Speaking of night owls, I found this channel. I was flipping channels. I got a new cable package. I was flipping channels, and I found this old retro metal channel, and it had all these old, showing all these old Motley Crue videos and stuff. And I'm telling Wendy, man, this is the stuff we used to listen to back with Luther.
Dude.
You guys introduced me to all that, Wasp and Motley Crue and Quiet Riot, and I mean Queen and remember Molly Hatchet?
Oh yeah. I mean, that's all we listened to music so much. Like we were total metalheads.
When I was telling her we'd stay up as late as we could, because we'd watch Saturday Night Live and then Friday night videos, we'd stay up late, watch Friday night videos, and then stay up late, watch Saturday Night Live.
Oh yeah, we used to have what we call them awake-a-thons or whatever. We'd stay up for the whole weekend, basically with no sleep.
I remember
We
doing
were
that
crazy.
out in Okotoks, and we watched the movie Trading Places with Dan Aykroyd and Eddie Murphy, and Indiana Jones. I want to say it was Raiders of the Lost Ark, like literally one after another after another after like all night long, like until the sun came up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember doing all that. I remember going. We would be up like almost 2 days maybe, and I remember going. For some reason, we had in our head at like 5:30 in the morning on like the second day of no sleep. Me and Dean were like, we need to go jog. Like, with no sleep, you're not thinking. It was like, yeah, we need to go we need to go jogging in the middle of because when we were growing up there, the city wasn't as big. Like basically, we could go 5-6 blocks, 10 blocks, whatever, and then it would just be farm fields, right? And I remember going jogging in these farm fields like 6 a.m. with no sleep, thinking, and then halfway there, like, what are we doing? Like, so kind of sober up or whatever.
Yeah, and that was before we, I'm not going to speak on your behalf, but that was before I'd ever experimented with any kind of drugs. We were doing that.
Oh no, like I don't think we really did much of any. We sneak booze once in a while, right? But nothing major.
That's the one thing, like we were talking and I said, we were kind of unsupervised. So we got into a little trouble because of that, but we weren't bad kids, right? Like I hung out with you guys from the time I was probably 9 until I was, consistently from 9 to probably 13 or 14. I never did drugs with you guys once. Yeah. You know what I mean? It just wasn't a thing for us.
No, we were, that was just like it was a different time, 80s, 70s, 80s was a different time. Like, we basically had the run of everything ourselves.
Yeah,
like that
our
whole
parents
area
really depended on us not to be stupid.
And I mean, we still were, but we weren't. I mean, we weren't felons or anything like that.
Well, and the thing is, no matter what mischief, whatever Nicky 9 or maybe throw an egg at the odd passerby or something. We never
did
really
do some egg throwing.
What's that? Sorry?
We did do some egg throwing.
I remember going 7-Eleven specifically to buy eggs, to throw eggs at stuff. But again, it was $2. Like that. It was cheap entertainment.
I was thinking too, like, I don't know, a month or two ago, a bunch of people were talking about growing up, and I was like, oh, we had our little gang. Like I call this like a little gang, but we weren't like a gang. We were just like guys that hung out. And I don't remember the kid's name, but do you remember there was a kid, he like won some medal in school and he wore this medal for like 2 weeks, like he'd wear it normal. And I used to be like, why are you wearing that medal all the time? But I don't know, something happened. I don't know if it was with you or with Wani, or this kid did like picked on one of you. I thought it was you maybe.
Oh.
And so I caught him kind of in an alley. He had this other little kid, and it was me. I thought it was with you too, or something. I can't remember now. Mine's a little vague. Right. But I remember they had like Slurpees or something, and I was gonna like defend you or something. And I remember like I pushed him, and like he said sorry, but then he spilt his Slurpees that he had for his little brothers or sisters and stuff. And so I was trying to be a badass, but then I also felt bad. So after like pushing him and telling him like don't pick on my friends, then I gave him money to go buy new Slurpees.
So lesson taught, don't be a prick. Don't go get new Slurpees.
Yeah, I was like, well, I'm sorry you spilled the Slurpee here. So I was like, I guess I wasn't really that bad.
You were actually really good. I mean, you were defending your friend, but at the same time, like you say, you didn't want to cause the kid harm and put him in a bad spot, so you looked after him.
Yeah, I was like, oh, because it was like, those are for someone else. So it's like, So I want to pretend like I was ruthless back then, but I guess I really wasn't.
Well, that's every time I think of a real badass, I think of like, the bum that gives me change that I know he's spending on drugs, but I can't help to give the bum drugs and the money anyways. Do you know what I mean? It's
just like, you never know.
Yeah. Yeah. Whether, people are like, well, give him a sandwich. I'm like, I don't have a sandwich, man. I'm not carrying around a cooler full of sandwiches. So here's $5. Enjoy the rest of your day.
I'm surprised you even have $5. Like I never carry cash anymore.
Well, I get an allowance from the missus, right? So
oh, there you go.
Yeah, and the truth is that $5 I just gave my allowance to that homeless guy.
That's very nice of you, man.
Yeah, I'm such a dickhead all the other times. I got to try and pay it forward some other way.
Dude, yeah, I always think back at growing up, like playing street hockey and hanging out and doing dumb stuff. Like we played so much street hockey. We were in great shape back then.
Oh, we could run all day.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, And then we go from playing street hockey, and then we go to your house and crank up some music and bother the neighbors and throw footballs on the front of the yard,
Oh, totally. I remember all that. I remember the neighbors always banging on the walls to be quiet, and we just turn it up louder. Like, we're bad. I feel so bad for my mom.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, she's somebody. I think I seen your mom the one time in Okotoks, but I actually don't think I've seen your mom since you guys moved in. She's somebody like, if I could tell her like, hey, thank you for giving us a place to not get into trouble. Like, I'm sure if she was home more and knew what we were up to, it probably would have gotten more trouble. But we always kind of had a safe place at the Olsen house. You know,
Oh,
what I
yeah,
mean?
it
And that's
was-
one of those things to me that, and then Lonnie and I got in a fight, and she'd still let me hang around with you guys. You know what I mean? Like, I owe that lady a big thank you just
Because
for
Lonnie
being.
was the little one, it's always the little brother sort of.
Yeah,
you
but
know.
and I think I was always, and truth is, maybe I don't. I guess today we'd probably call it bullying, because I was always getting my ass whooped by Dean, and Lonnie was the next guy down from me,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I mean. It goes
Yeah.
in order, right?
Yeah, so I guess I had to show him who's boss. And it was the stupid. It was. I'm telling you right now, I've been in a few scrapes over the years. By far the worst fight I've ever been in. It was just two guys rubbing each other's heads. It was horrible.
Dude, I remember Lonnie in a fight, and Lonnie is not a fighter or anything like that. He was probably the nicest one out of all of us or whatever. I remember him in a fight with this like little fat kid, and I mean, we were all kids, so it's not like we were 20 years old and it was a little kid. We were all like, but he was in a fight with this kid, and I kept yelling like I remember us yelling like, get him. You know how you do when you all gather around, you're like, come on, get him. And Lonnie's like fighting and crying, as a kid, that's you're crying as you're punching him, and he wouldn't hit because he's like, I'm like, hit him in the face, and he's like, I can't. Mom said I'll kill him. My mom told him if he punched someone in the face, they would die, so that he wouldn't do it. And so he wouldn't do it. And I was like, oh, so we break it out. I remember we break it out. And I don't know if you were there or not, but then me and Dean took the kid, and there was a dumpster thing.
Oh no!
They were doing renovations on one of the places there. We threw him in this dumpster and then just shut the lid.
Oh.
And I remember the kid yelling to get out, and later, but someone must have come and got him or whatever. But I remember that pretty vividly. Which is pretty bad.
That's pretty ruthless, man.
That was ruthless. I mean, the kid could crawl out. It wasn't like it was locked or anything. I just thought, like, yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So, I mean, that was kind of our area, right? I don't even know where this kid came from or where he was from or whatever.
Well, do you remember walking around the neighborhood looking for other kids to play road hockey against?
Oh, dude.
Like, if you had a net, we'd challenge you. Come to Guy Weeding School, play road hockey.
We used to go challenge people all the time. I remember going to like Whitehorn. Was it Whitehorn, the next community?
Yeah, Whitehorn was kind of like I'll say like west of us.
Across the main drag there,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, I remember going there looking to challenge people and then we challenged like the Verks, we'd go to was it like the north end of our community? And I remember always like challenging people at road hockey, but I also remember like just killing them every time we played.
Well, we had you, right? They'd have these dum-dums that never played any hockey, and then we had Len, who at 14 was a grown man. And remember, we'd get my brother Kent to ref.
Dude, man. Yeah, that was good times. I totally forgot about you posted on your Facebook. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, no problem.
My puppy just totally got into something. I just got to grab it.
Yeah, no.
Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah. The one thing people may not realize about Luther and his brother Ajax, who's also a wrestler and also an incredible artist, is that they lived right across the street from our elementary school. So kind of anything going on at the school, we kept an eye on. So if we seen anybody playing road hockey or anything over there, we'd immediately grab our sticks and head across the street, see who really wanted to play hockey.
So I just got a little puppy. He's like 6 months old or whatever. And if he was chewing his bone really good, and I turned away for a second, and he's eating something else that I don't even know where he got it. But so you know how that goes.
Puppies are like kids, man. They just find stuff.
Oh, dude, it's crazy. Like he came up to me the other day, and he had like a lottery ticket in his mouth, and he was handing it to me. I was like, "Where did you get this?" So I don't even know. But Yeah, the road hockey was awesome. And you posted something on your Facebook, I think like a week ago, about the window breaking and the teacher. And I remember, and I totally forgot. I forgot about that window thing. And then I forgot about that teacher wanting to fight me. And I was the kid. I was a little kid.
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever forget that. Yeah, honestly, because I was in his class, so I would have been, because I was young, I was 11. So there's no way you were any older than 14.
I wasn't
You know what I mean?
14 yet because we hadn't moved yet. So I
Yeah.
was like 12 or 13 at the
Yeah,
time.
and yeah, he would have, because you were so big, you probably could have kicked his ass anyways.
It was crazy though. I remember he'd take his jacket off, and I remember standing there thinking, like, what? And I had a broken thumb at the time. I remember I broke my thumb playing football.
That's right. That's probably the only reason he actually didn't fight you. Do you know what I mean? Like, he was hostile.
Oh, he was.
Yeah. And I can remember thinking,
forgot
like,
about
crap,
it
I
until
gotta
you
go to
brought it up.
school tomorrow.
He was losing his mind.
Yeah, he was so mad.
He was like a caged animal who just had jumped out of the cage. Like, he was crazy.
And all we did was moon the whole hallway full of parents at parent-teacher interview night.
I mean, that's
not worth fighting over.
That was all we did.
Yeah.
How was that bad? That was
Right.
in every 80s movie. So that should be.
Yeah, that was, where do you think we learned it? It wasn't, we didn't come up with it on our own. You know, and that's, you know, the people today, honestly, here's the thing, you know, we were talking about sort of coming up then and now, you know, nowadays we literally sexually assaulted like 500 people. Think about that.
I never would think of it that way.
Yeah, those people all are hashtag me too, because they looked at all our little behinds.
Such good days, man.
Yeah, when you could get away with that, right? Like, legit nowadays, I think if 4 teenagers or 4 young guys opened the door of a school and hung the moon, people would call the cops.
Oh yeah.
Like,
You know, that's something though. I don't remember ever really having cops come around or nothing like that. So
I remember one night there was a rearing night of Nicky Nine Doors, and there was a unit that was by the end, kind of by a space we could easily run through. And I remember they had a little white plastic fence, and we pulled all the plastic fence out of the ground, and we threw it in the dumpster, but we didn't throw it in the dumpster. We left it hanging out so they could still find it. We just wanted them to know
we were bad, but we weren't like terrible.
Yeah, we wanted to know we could throw it. You know? So, and then we ran away, and I think they called the cops. Like, I remember kind of seeing a couple extra police cars driving around our hut that night.
Oh, geez.
But that was probably the only time, and it was because, you know, we actually touched someone's property, which we never generally would do.
Oh yeah.
But again, we left it hanging out just so they could make sure they could see it, so they knew.
I don't even really remember that, but it sounds like something we would have done for sure.
Yeah, that one always made me laugh. Like, yeah, we left it hanging. We stole their fence, but left it where they could find it.
That's hilarious. I remember, like, I don't even know if I should talk about this, but do you remember when we borrowed the car, your older brother's friend's car?
No.
Oh,
we can talk about this. What are they going to do? It's 30 years ago.
That's true. So some friend of your brother's had a car at your, like, outside on the street or something like that. And I remember that our next door neighbor had some Danish exchange student guy who was older than us.
Right.
Staying there.
Okay, I do remember that guy.
That guy was a douche. Super straight up douche. And I remember we all hated him, but he would like buy booze because he was old enough to buy booze. He was 18 or something.
Okay.
And not like we had really money for booze, but it's like whatever. But I remember that car was there, and Diener, I think, borrowed the keys that were hanging up. And so we went out driving, and I mean, we were probably 12 years old, driving this car at like 2, 3 in the morning. Just stupid too. Like, we didn't really go far because, like, I think like we were within the properties, which is like all the different.
Yeah, you weren't driving up the highway with it or anything.
No. And I remember though, we were out for a long time, like 4 or 5 hours, and we went to a rest. I can't even. It was crazy. It was one of those sort of like out of a movie type nights or whatever. And I remember the guy got so drunk that he threw up all inside the car.
Oh.
And we were like, oh, that's not good. So I remember pulling into a gas station, and this guy like passed out on the ground, but we cleaned the car. We took it through, we filled it, we topped it off with more gas than we took it with. We totally detailed it like in the morning, Like we made the thing was cleaner than when we took it, and then we went and parked it back. So once again, we did something bad, but then made it
Made it better.
But then we tried to sneak back into my house, and my mom was up.
Oh,
I remember walking in the living room, and she's just sitting there with her arms crossed, and she said, where are you guys? Like, and most of the time we could come and go, no problem. And we were like, of course, how do you know when a teenager's lying? Every time they open their mouth. So it's like she knew that we were lying, right? Like, oh, weird, nothing. And she's like, oh, where's that car? And we're like, what? Like, what car? So she totally busted us. And then we explained everything, and she was cool though. Like, I got in big trouble, and I remember she like lectured all of us, and then but she didn't tell your mom or anything. Like, so
she never sewered us, no matter what.
She'd give us trouble, and like I remember getting in big trouble lots of times, but she would never rat us out to anybody.
Yeah.
Like, which is super cool of her. But nowadays she'd probably be in trouble for that.
Oh, right, yeah. Just and I mean, the thing is, once your mom wasn't somebody like, I don't remember her giving me a lot of trouble because I was so young, right? But at the same time, she was somebody like when she spoke, we freaking listened. Like, I don't
always
remember ever like disrespecting or like, when your mom said, "Boys, keep it down," we did. Right?
Yeah. Well, and she was a single mom in the 80s, raising 3 kids plus all our friends.
Plus
you know
us
what I mean?
Like,
yeah. And I mean, she brought food. We always had food. All of us had food. We all had entertainment. Like, I mean, she busted her ass, and that's, I think, why we would run around a lot, because we were on our. That's why we were on our own a lot.
Yeah.
Well,
your mom was working. My mom was working. Like, what I mean? Like, that was the way.
No one. That's how we raised ourselves, looked after each other, basically.
Well, and the thing is, I mean, it's no secret, but our stepdad was an absolute tyrant, right? Like, so your house was like a haven for us, because in our house, life was not cool. Like,
that's why we never went over there. We were always at my place.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking the other day, like, I remember when you guys were on Oaks and Jax came to stay with us, and like, it was like we were kind of allowed, as funny as it sounds, like, go hang out and watch TV. You were never comfortable that way. So I remember him coming, and we basically like hung out in our bedroom for the weekend because the weather was shit outside. It get rained all weekend. And I remember him drawing really funny pictures of my stepdad, like really insulting ones, but really funny pictures. Because even back then, he could draw like a bugger, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I also remember he never came back.
It was zero fun zone.
It was awful for all of us. Like, it was just, my stepdad was such a prick. Like, it was just not fun for anybody there.
You remember on my birthday when I had to go to the hospital when I got my larynx torn?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That was crazy.
I don't think I will ever forget that.
That was crazy.
Yeah,
so
like, I remember coming to your house the next day and your mom telling us you had to go to the hospital.
Well, so Dean helped me a lot. Like, so the people watching or listening, it's like, so it was my birthday, 14th birthday. I can't remember now, but ended up we had these huge giant pillow things, right? And so we were having like this, when I say pillow fight, it's not like little tiny pillows. These were like giant.
Well, these I was probably, at that time, I was probably 10 or 11, and the pillows were taller than me.
Yeah, they were huge.
It took all I could do to swing one of those.
And they're denim, and they were like thick foam because they were for a couch. They were like for this couch.
Yeah, they were sectional cushions.
Yeah. And so I ended up on my hands and knees, and everybody was hitting me in the head, basically like giving me whiplash, like just my head was giant. And then I remember like just feeling weird. And remember my neck just swelled up or whatever, because it was full of air. You could push it, and it would go like a sponge, like shh. But I was freaking out, like, and my voice is really high, got really high, like a cartoon Muppet or whatever. And I was freaking out. And your older brother he never used to hang out with us, rarely.
No, I remember him just smashing you in the head with the pillow that night.
But I remember freaking out so bad, like something's wrong. And I think he thought he was going to get in trouble. He's like, you got to calm down. I was like, I can't. So his way to calm me down was to punch me numerous times in the face.
Hey, that's the Clark way of crisis management.
Yeah. So he starts punching me, and I'm like, dude, no, something's wrong. Like, I didn't even sell the punches. I was just like, worried something was wrong. And I remember that. I was like, dude, no, something's wrong. And he's like, just punching me. And then he kept telling me, and this is one time, like usually we'd listen to older guys because he was older than us.
Yeah.
But I was like, no, go F yourself. Like he's like, go to sleep. You just need to go to sleep. He kept saying like, oh, you drank too much, but we didn't really drink that much, like at all.
I don't really remember you guys drinking, to be honest.
I don't see. That's why I was like, I don't remember drinking. And if we did, it wasn't a lot. It was probably like a beer that we split between us or something.
Well, I was just saying, I'd be honest with you. Like, I don't really remember us having a lot of, like, I don't really remember us drinking. I mean, obviously I was like 10, 11, 12, 13, but I don't remember you guys drinking.
I only remember, I'll get back to the drinking in a second, but so I remember, so he kept saying, go to bed. And I was like, no, I'm freaking out. Like, and so Dean Wiener, which that was his name when we grew up.
In fairness, that was his nickname. Yeah, Wiener.
That was I mean, my mom called him Wiener.
Everyone, I think my mom called him Wiener for crying out loud.
Anyways, I understand like Diener's his nickname, but growing up it was always Wiener to me. So I always still think of him as Wiener. But anyway, so I was like, dude, I need to go to a doctor or something. Like something is wrong. So there was a walking clinic like 2 or 3 blocks away. So he came with me because I was like, you got to come with me because they're not going to listen to me. Well, before we went there, we phoned my mom at work.
Right.
And I was like, something's wrong. And she got super mad at me and thought I was effing around, right?
Oh,
like
really?
that we were making stuff up and hung up. And I called back and then hung up and then Wiener called and she's like, stop calling. I'm at work. Like, you stop calling me.
Right.
Thought we were being jackasses,
Right.
which 99% of the time we were.
Yeah, exactly.
Because she'd get calls from Lonnie or Ajax like, oh, Lonnie's being mean to me. Like, you know what I mean? Stuff like that.
Yeah, 99% of the time it was a BS phone call.
Yeah. And so I was like, you got to come to this walking clinic with me because I can't talk because I was having a hard time talking because I was getting no air, right? So he came with me and it was weird because when we walk in, they don't believe you because we're walking in normal. Like I look, nothing's wrong, right? And they don't know my voice. My voice was super. It was like helium, like I'd have helium, but they don't know that could be my normal voice. So
right,
they don't know the difference. So I'm having Dean do all the talking, and then the doctor check, and all of a sudden they freak out, and then they call my mom, and then at first my mom's like thought we had someone call them, like one of the was it Brad or his brother? I can't remember his older brother's name.
Like just taking this rip on your mom to
like,
the ultimate.
Totally ribbing him, like having like these older guys call now. And so she hung up on the doctor, and then they called back again. They're like, no, we have to take him in an ambulance to the hospital. Like it's bad. Like it was torn or whatever. And so then she feels bad and was freaking out because she was like, but I mean, I don't blame her. I would have done the same thing, right?
Yeah.
But they were like, said, normally they see this in traffic accidents and they've never seen anybody walk in on their own with this accident, something like that. And it was just the way it happened, right? Because it just got whiplash.
To give you the perspective of somebody that watched it, do you know what I mean? I remember my brother who was 2 years older, because you and Dean are, I think, are the same age, right?
Yeah.
So then, our older brother, literally winding up as far as he could and cracking you in the back of the head with that pillow when you were on your hands and knees. Like, I can't describe how hard a 15-year-old boy was wailing away on yours, maybe 16-year-old boy was wailing away on your head with a pillow that probably weighed no less than 10 or 12 pounds.
Oh yeah, I took it, and then I knew something was wrong. I you know when you're hurt.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was crazy. And then they told me at the hospital, if you had gone to sleep that night, you would have died because you would have suffocated.
So really, my brother
tried to kill your brother, I would have been dead.
Yeah, thanks, Kent.
So he almost killed me.
Yeah,
like literally twice, actually, with the pillow and then by telling me to go to bed.
Well, one of the things I tell people is how much like the Clark boys inadvertently injured you or wounded you or messed with you. Like I remember I think you blew your knee playing hockey. And correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And we were playing road hockey. You were just able to kind of play hockey again. We were playing road hockey at Guy Wiedek, and I all but like axe handle you right in the bad knee. I remember you hitting the ground, and I'd never seen you fall down before. And you're selling pretty hard. And I was so scared. I ran home.
It was because that was fresh. I think that might have been my first kind of exercise coming back.
Yeah, literally, you just go, and I'll never forget, like, and running home.
Yeah.
Like it was,
That
I
was
was
good.
sorry. And then Dean, I remember Dean whipping a football. You and him were playing catch. He threw one with a little extra pepper on it, and I think that might be how you broke your thumb.
Oh no, you know how I broke my thumb was I think on Dean's I was playing quarterback and they came and rushed because we were playing like 3-on-3. And as I
Okay.
threw it, my follow through, my thumb hit his top of his head.
Oh,
And
okay.
it just
It's
the way it hit, it broke my thumb.
broke your thumb.
It was
And then
crazy.
yeah, and it kept broke your larynx, right? So it's like all three of us just like did doing damage to Luther, you know.
It's all good.
Yeah, I was like, man, we're lucky he didn't kill us because you were like, say, Kent was old, at least 2 years older than you, but you were still bigger than him. Like,
It was weird. Like I grew really big until I was 12 or 13, and then I grew like an inch since then. Like I think everyone thought I was going to be like a giant, and then I just
right,
stopped.
peaked.
Yeah.
I didn't grow until I was 19. Everybody thought I was going to be a little person.
And then you got big.
Ish. Bigger. I don't ever want to use the phrase big. So let's talk quickly. You know, we're talking about us back in the day. In the 32, 33 years you've been around wrestling, and I know it's hard to describe it, you know, we don't have enough time probably, but what's the biggest change you think you've seen in the last 32, 33 years?
Oh, so just off the top of my head, the guys have gotten smaller.
Right.
One, way
Present.
smaller. Like a lot of guys that are in it now would never, I would say 70% or 60% wouldn't be in it back then because
Right.
they wouldn't let them.
Yeah.
Well, just to the size. Plus, it was also different. Like when as the 80s into the 90s into the 2000s progressed, training facilities changed. Or training changed because it used to be you'd get a group of, I don't know, like 10 guys, just for example.
Right.
You'd want 9 of them or 8 of them to quit because you only wanted to take the best 1 or 2, right?
Right.
But now most schools, and you probably see this too, they never want people to quit because that's the revenue.
Yeah, that's right.
Whereas before it was like a companies had the school, and it wasn't a revenue thing. It was more about, hey, we're getting talent. Like
right. Yeah,
talent.
we're building the next level of talent.
Where they don't do that now. Now it's like, oh, we need that $100 a month coming in from each person.
Right.
So it doesn't mean you're not getting good people. You still get good people. You just don't get, I guess, the heart's different in a lot of them.
Well, here's the thing, man, and I remember thinking when I was at the dungeon, it wasn't easy, right? The dungeon floor, as you know, is the most you know, isn't the softest thing to learn to take bump. Like as a person who knows how to bump, it isn't bad, but when you're learning how to bump, that floor is awful, right?
Oh, everything hurts when you're learning.
Yeah, exactly. So, geez, now I've totally lost my point. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, so yeah, like when you're learning in the dungeon, it hurts to do all that. And I mean, some of the, even the training they would make us do to try to get us to toughen up or quit or whatever, they'd probably get in trouble. They would never do that now.
No, like
never.
Well, and that's like, okay, sorry, I remember what I'm saying because it's a point I've made a million times. But I took some time away from the dungeon and came back. And so when I first got to the dungeon, and again, when you were there was some, you know, there's some pretty hardcore guys around. When I got there was, you know, myself, Pistol Pollock, and my brother Dean, who were all at one time, you know, nationally ranked amateur wrestlers. There was a Johnny Devine and his buddy Vince, who just finished a 3-year stint in the military. So those two were hard as nails. A guy called Kerwin, it was like 6'2", 285, and no idea how strong he was because he was like 19 years old. So we had a bunch of killers in there. Do you know what I mean? And so when I came back, there was these guys, and some of them, forgive the expression, were softer than baby shit. And I remember thinking, like, we would have beat the shit out of these guys. They never would have made it through our dungeon. And I started thinking back to like when Dynamite and Davey and Pillman were around there, and I'm like, would I have made it through that dungeon? And would they have made it through Stu's dungeon?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like with each generation.
Change. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's like the guys down in Stu's day were legit grinding you up, and then it got to a point, like you say, now it'd be considered abuse.
Oh yeah, you get in trouble. Like, so like that's changed, but then again, on the opposite end is, I think a lot of the guys are more athletic. than
Right.
when we were coming up or when I came up at first. And I mean, I think about, like, me and Chris talk about this a lot. Jericho talking about this. It's like in the early 90s, like I was considered a high flyer because I could do a tope or I could do like a couple little flying moves that now like everybody, like, that's just normal.
Yeah, 300-pound guys are knocking out shooting stars.
Yeah. So it's like that has changed like
Right.
significantly, you know.
Yeah. Well, and I think some of that as the money goes up, and I was talking about this with somebody the other day, that as the money goes up, say in UFC, it'll become an option for better and better athletes. And I think that's what wrestling's done. It's opened the door, like guys, you know, because back in the day it was, you know, I mean, we all know where it was born and what it came from. And, you know, there's a few guys that made really good money, but for the most part, guys were scraping, you know, eking out a living. And then, you know, with the advent, it's completely changed. Having said that, not nearly as many guys are making a living at it anymore either.
Well, you were working 5 nights a week or more back then.
Yeah.
Now it's like a couple times a month, right?
Well, that's I hear guys, and no disrespect, because like you say, the opportunities have changed. But you know, we trained in the dungeon, and by the time we were kind of ready to go, our first kind of set of dates was 10 shots in 11 nights. You know what I mean? And then we ran at one point with Stampede 68 shots in 72 nights.
I love that.
Yeah, and guys now just don't have that opportunity. You know what I mean? And it's unfortunate because they'll say, "Well, I've been in the business 5 years," and it's like, and you look at their body of work, and it's not bad, but you realize, like, the shit, kid, I had more matches on that tour because we were working twice a night than you've unfortunately.
They've had 50 matches. In 5
Yeah,
years.
exactly. So, you know, and I don't want to disrespect that, because it's like you say, guys working in and around the what I call the Western Canadian wrestling vortex.
Yeah.
You're lucky, you know, without, if you just want to travel even 3 to 4 hours, you're lucky if you can do 2 to 3 dates a month.
Well, we used to, when we lived in Calgary, like me and Chris used to drive to Vancouver. What's that, 13 hours one way to do a show?
Yeah.
Make $50 and then drive 13 hours back. It's like, who drives a full day to make $50? But we did.
Well, and I think that's, you know, I had to watch your toes. I'm going to name drop on you now, Len. But I was talking to Natalia the other day, and that's the one thing we talked about, is kind of a passion and a love for the business, that, you know, that's the shit you're willing to do. You know what I mean? Like, there was a time somebody owed me for 24 shows and I just kept wrestling. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I know you owe me a bunch of money, but whatever. I just want to keep wrestling.
And by the way, it's not name dropping because it's people you came up with. So I never.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Now it's name dropping if you're like, yeah, well, the one time I ran into Ric Flair and was like talking for like 4 minutes, like that's name dropping.
Yeah.
When it's
I talked to Ric Flair one time. He pushed me to the ground. No, I'm just kidding.
It's like I don't know. Rest is so, but Gillespie used to always tell me how he like stretched Shawn Michaels or showed him how to do a figure four. I don't know, something like that in the dressing room. And I was like, I don't know. No.
Well, we all kind of have those stories of what we call brushes with greatness, but you know, you always got to be careful how you convey those, because you catch somebody on the right or wrong day. Like, you know, maybe he was just making Gillespie feel good that day. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know, okay,
I can't even see that happening though.
No, not really. I know, you know, I don't know Shawn Michaels personally,
but those guys back then, especially with enhancement talent, you know, they weren't talking to enhancement talent.
No.
Like, so that's why I'm like, no.
Right.
None of those guys would be talking to any of you guys.
Yeah. That's one of the other things that's changed, you know, and enhancement talent almost have rights now. So what are you even talking about?
Oh yeah, I talk to all the guys that come in at AEW like all the time. Like I talk to everybody. Like, yeah, we're all workers. We're all in it together.
Well, and that's one thing, you know, I've worked in and around some guys that have been really big stars in the industry that legit accomplished everything I could ever dream of accomplishing in wrestling. And their egos, I mean, they're generally nice guys. I don't want to come across and shit all over these people, but they're generally nice guys. And for the most part, people like them, but they sometimes come across like I'm too good for your locker room. And I was looking at them and say, but you're still sitting in the same locker room I am.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Same
like,
show.
Yeah, like I don't care what you were doing last year. You're only as good as your last match, and you're sitting on the same show I am. In fact, you're reffing my match.
Well, there you go.
You know what? Which is kind of a dickheadish, but it's a true story. So, and that to me is one of the things that I think seeing Bruce Hart always told us that, you know, when you get to the top, guys are going to blow sunshine up your ass. Like if you get there, you're going to have a shit match and guys are going to tell you it's great. you know, and it's one of those things I always watch out for. And I definitely have met a few of those where you go up to these guys like, you know, hey, how was that match? And I'd be like, man, that was the best match I ever saw. And then you watch it back, it's like, I don't think that guy ever watched wrestling before. Like, actually, you know, do you remember Jason Anderson? You still talking?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So, you know, one of my favorite stories is Jason Anderson used to pull this shit on me. So I would, you know, I was working my way up the card, you know, working 1, 2, 3 on the show. And I'd come in the back and I'd see Anderson sitting back there talking with Gamma or Jerry Morrow or somebody that I, you know, somebody else I really respected. And I'd go to Jason and say, like, hey man, did you see my match? He'd be like, yeah, Jordan, you know, you're doing really good. Like, for a young guy with your experience, that might be one of the better matches I've ever seen. Oh man, you know, just pumped up my tires, like, thank you so much, Jace. So now fast forward about a year, I'm sitting in the back and I've worked my way up to the semi-main event slot. And I'm sitting with Anderson in the back, and this young guy comes back. He goes, hey, did you guys watch my match? And Jason looks at that and goes, hey man, for a young guy, your experience, that's one of the best matches I've ever seen. I'm like,
he probably never left that chair the whole night.
So no, he didn't. That's the thing. I sat with him the whole night in the locker room. He never went ever and looked out that curtain. Well, best match I ever seen for a kid with your experience.
That is awesome.
Yeah. That's one guy Jason Anderson is just an absolute dino. Like, I just love that guy.
Oh yeah, I did lots of shows like around Alberta with him, and South Africa too. We toured in South Africa together.
Okay. Yeah, I like Anderson, man.
Yeah, good dude.
Yeah. Well, and again, it's one of those, I look at him as a good gauge of how long I've been around, because when I met Anderson, you know, his kids, one of them was maybe 5 and his daughter was like 2 or 3. And now they're both finished university. So it's like, oh man, I'm so old.
Dude, everything is like that.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. Yeah. So what do you
I remember the last time I saw you, my niece was like 1.
Really?
I think when me and Jug did a tour up there, and now she's in university or finishing university. Like, so it's like,
yeah, that was in 2001, maybe at the latest. Well, and that's one of those times, like, this is where I didn't work that show because I quote unquote retired at the time. Because so we were working, we'd left Stampede and started a promotion. It's something you would never have known at the time, but so we left this Stampede and started this promotion. And partway into the promotion, a very, what I'll call nefarious element gets introduced to me as an owner. His nickname, well, I don't want to say his nickname, but I have no problem telling you he was a mass murderer. Like, he was somebody I should be afraid of. You know what I mean? And so I kind of found out he was involved, and my name was really heavily attached to that promotion. I just got a tour from Japan kind of ripped out from under me, which is a completely different story, but it was all kind of at the same time. And I kind of realized, like, man, I'm into this promotion. Like, this guy doesn't care about wrestling. This guy's a mass murderer and probably a drug dealer at the very least. I need to get the hell out of here. And so I couldn't quit because I was worried about how the mass murderer would react to me quitting because I was so heavily involved. So the only thing I could do is say I retire from wrestling. And that's why I wasn't actually at that show.
That's crazy.
Oh man, people don't understand. Like, I've kind of told the story where, and I won't bore you with it, but I've kind of told people, like, if it was for my wife, I'd probably be dead or in prison. Because when we started dating, I was doing collections for that guy who I found out later was a nomad for a pretty big motorcycle club. So we kind of realized, like, oh boy, at some point somebody might want us to do something pretty bad to collect this money. And I had a date with my wife one night, and he wanted to go do something. And I'm like, no, I have a date. And he's like, what? And so we had a big falling out, and I just sort of stepped away from it, thank Christ. So I always say, like, wasn't for my wife at the time that her and I got dating, I'd be dead or in jail for sure.
Oh man.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the element. I hate to say it, but that was the element you were working for when you went to that promotion.
I don't even remember who I worked for. I didn't even remember the name of the company. I just know we got booked on a show or two. And
I think Divine was really instrumental. Johnny Divine was instrumental bringing you and Juggernaut, and I want to say Tony Kazina was there.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, because we did I don't know if it was the same company. We did like 6 or 7 other shots, like in Saskatchewan.
I think it might have been because a bunch of guys didn't get paid for the tour.
Okay. And then after that, then I went to Can-Am with those guys. And they were wrestling like 15 or 20 shows a month.
Oh, yeah, they had lots. And they were doing like tons of First Nation dates and stuff. They were doing and
bar shows.
They were doing bot shows, right? Like, they were really smart about how they kind of ran that whole thing.
No, that was fun. Like, I tagged with Steve Rivers up there pretty much the whole time and had some singles, but it was a great time.
Yeah, it was one of those things, like, we knew they were running, we knew they had a lot of dates, you know, and Stampede, there was a time they weren't running a lot of dates. So we wanted to go work for Can-Am, and the Hearts pretty much told us like, yeah, you go work for those guys, you're gonna have a real problem on this end. So we always, felt we had to avoid it because we didn't know, right? Where if we talked to, like I say, if we would have talked to you about what we were getting into, we would have said, yeah, we'll be back. We're going to work for these guys, right?
Yeah.
You know,
That's the classic indie, like, oh, you can only work for us, but we only run once a month, but
yeah, exactly. Well, and the truth is, like, one of the things I was instrumental in getting was when I kind of started working some shows after I took a little time off, I had promoters calling me, right? So I'm saying, and it wasn't big money, but I basically was saying, you're going to give me a guarantee. I'm not working for the gate anymore. Like, this is my guarantee. So then when we started that promotion at Western Canadian Extreme Wrestling, one of the things I told the guys that were running that show is we have to be able to give these guys a guarantee. Because if you can't give the boys a guarantee, you can't afford to run. You know what I mean? Like, just shut down now. So that was something that I kind of brought into Alberta. But one of the other bullshit things, I mean, I didn't start it, but my attitude was you can work for anybody you want, just not in the same city. Well, in Alberta, if you're running Calgary to Edmonton, you pretty much just eliminate everybody else.
Yeah.
Right? So that's where it gets a little sketchy. So that's a tough one.
My logic was just, if you're a heel here, be a heel in both and try to like just keep your persona or whatever. So at least it's still the same or whatever.
Yeah. Well, now that I'm out of an office and simply looking from, trying to look at, say, out of the office perspective, but also from the worker, it's kind of like, unless you're scared of drawing eyes away from your product, which if you're confident in your product, you probably shouldn't worry about that. Unless you're scared about drawing eyes away, that just shows that, okay, this guy is working for all of these other promotions. He must be the guy to watch. Do you know what I mean? And if the guy's that good, or the people that are working around those promotions are that good, they'll come to watch them at yours too.
My logic would be, hey, if Duke goes to work for ABC Wrestling, and he gets new people watching him and he really draws them in and like him, that's going to bring those 5 or 6 people or 10 people or 20 people, whatever it is, to our show. Yeah, exactly. They'll know he's on the show there. So I think I look at it that way too. But
yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those rising tide floats all ships, right?
And then it's up to you as a worker. If you're my champion and you go somewhere else and you're like beating guys and you're getting beaten like a minute in the first match in the prelims or whatever, like you got to look after your brand a little bit too.
Yeah, for sure. Well, to that, I actually had a story once, and I won't mention any names in the story, but I was a PWA champion, for at the time, and this guy phoned me, wanted me to go work a date somewhere else in Alberta, and I talked to the Kurt Sorokin and the promoter in Edmonton, said, hey, I want to go down there, but I want to go there as the PWA champion. You know what I mean? So people will recognize that I'm a champion somewhere else, and maybe it'll draw us to our promotion. And he was okay with that. He was very cautious about, don't defend the belt, don't do anything like that, but definitely announce yourself as champion. Okay, cool. So then I kind of hear through the grapevine that the promoter's down and he's promoting that, yeah, I'm defending the PWA title against somebody that I definitely did not care for in the business. And probably one guy in the whole industry that I'd say I'm not putting that guy over. And apparently I was going to put him over for the PWA title. So I quickly phoned that promoter and said, yeah, don't book me. I'll never work on your shows, because it's just, and that's where it gets you into trouble.
Classic promoters, though.
Yeah. Well, of course, then I got a call from Kurt, and he'd heard it before I had, which upset me the most. Because of course I get this phone call and he's like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Like, I'm just, Joe Dumb in the woods, no idea what's going on with the belt. So yeah, that's where guys get themselves in shit, I think.
Yeah, and that, and just the communication between office and workers generally is never good, and those guys take liberties, and it's all weird.
Well, I think a lot of promoters, I mean, and I understand what they're doing. Obviously you want to pop your brand and you want people to draw eyes. It's the idea of, say, going down a flyer in another show's show. Like, it's not the most classy move in the world, but I see, I can see it. I see where it comes from to some degree.
The carny aspect, and the one thing with like indie wrestling, it gets me, because like every city's got 2 or 3 little companies, most places or whatever, and it's like, I always laugh because each one of the promoters or whatever promoters, they all think that they're Vince McMahon or like it's something crazy. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I'm like, dude, just try to get a good company going and put on some good shows. Like, yeah, you're not a czar. Like, you're paying these guys $20 if you're even paying them. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just
understand you're not really like, you're bringing something to those people's lives, because being able to work adds to your life and gives people a platform. But it's not like you're putting food on the table.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm like,
and,
just if they all would just work together, it'd probably work great. Or like,
yeah.
it's
Well,
like when you say like, oh, you can't go work for that guy. Well, he was going to pay me $100. So if you want to raise my rate here $100, I'll gladly stay.
yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
And that's what I kind of ended up doing was this promotion was willing to pay me this. What are you willing to pay me? And you hate to do that because if you have a conflicting night, somebody's going to pay you either more than you're worth or more than
Yeah.
they think you're worth. And I'm very realistic about what I'm worth. You know what I mean? But I have been in that situation, right? Where it's just kind of like, okay, well, you want to pay me, 75. This guy's willing to pay me 150. Do you want to go any higher? Right? Like, because it's a business ultimately,
Oh, I was booked to go to Mexico, and then I ended up taking a gig in South Africa instead because it was double the pay.
Right. Yeah.
So I
And as a
canceled one.
businessman, you're a fool to turn that down.
Yeah.
Right?
So
Especially like if Mexico said, okay, we're going to give you residual income for the rest of your life if you do this tour. Okay, that's a different conversation. But if we're talking 6-12 weeks and the money's double, I hate to say it, but I got to go to South Africa.
And this is how I made a living wrestling. Like, this is what I did. So it's like, yeah, I got to go for that, so.
Well, and in that scenario, we hear the word independent contractor get thrown around quite a bit now, but I mean, in that scenario, that's absolutely what you are, right? The same as if that promoter's looking and he's got two names that are, we'll call them equal draws, and one of them's going to cost him less. Well, who's he bringing in? He's always going to bring in the cheap guy.
Yeah.
Right. So, what's coming up? What's going on? What's coming up in AEW for you?
AEW, we have a pay-per-view. I don't know when is this. I'm not even sure when this is airing, but we have a pay-per-view coming up. And we have the shows every Wednesday, TNT Dynamite on TNT Dynamite, and we have AEW Dark Tuesdays, and we have on the new show too that just got announced this last week on Mondays.
You want to talk about that for a second? Talk about Big Show signing. How do you? That's a pretty big deal, eh?
I just saw it that day too, so it's like that's great. I think that really brings a big star, a big name value to the show, and I know he'll love it. Like AEW is like not. I've been in a lot of locker rooms. I've been in a lot of places. I love FMW. When I was there, I still consider myself like an FMW guy.
Right.
But AEW is like literally the best place I've ever been to. Like it's so, and people have knocked this around, and it not trying to be cliche, but it's really like family oriented, or like it's just a great. It's been a great place. So it's got a great atmosphere. It's not that dog eat dog feeling like in other big the other big company.
Yeah.
Where you're always on eggshells.
Right.
And you have a lot of friends there, or a lot of friends that have been there, and they'll tell you the same thing. And most of the guys, and we know some of these dudes, they're like, after they had left, they're like, I hated it there.
Right.
Obviously the money's probably pretty good, but they all hate it there.
Well, yeah, and I think, there's some people that I think a lot of us, we want to get there because that's where the pinnacle is. But I think a lot of people, when they get there, realize like, holy shit, like this is literally about what's happening right here, right now. You know what I mean? Like it's one of those things, and I don't want to chirp the model. Like say I have friends that work there, so I definitely don't want to go too hard in the paint here. But one of the things I think that the WWE, for what it's worth, is probably the best thing that ever happened to the business, in my opinion. But on a certain level, maybe the worst thing, because it hurt the territories in a way that they're now. Well, and it took a generation to build them back up. They're just now coming back, right? And I think that you see WWE working, with Evolve and things like that, they've realized too, like, hey, there's a real platform out here with these other indie guys, because it's hard to develop talent, right? And I think that's one of the cool things about AEW, where they've looked, and like you say, I mean, maybe some of the guys, the monsters aren't like they were back in the day, but that roster, pound for pound up and down that roster, there's nobody that's shitty. We have
the best tag team rosters in wrestling history.
Yeah, for sure.
In my opinion, it's so good. That's why I like when I got put with Serpentico. He's like the greatest tag partner I ever had. He's such a good guy, great in the ring. But I'm like, we have our shtick or it's different than anything in wrestling. So
Right, yeah.
that's how we stand out than everybody, because it's such a deep tag team division. But
Well,
it's great. And as far as the indies or independent wrestling, yeah, it's coming back, but it's not like it was, and I don't think it will ever be like it was. Like Stampede Wrestling that ran 6 days a week,
yeah.
where you could make a living wrestling.
Yeah,
That's
sure.
I don't see that happening again.
Well,
Well, and another thing that makes it so it's not going to do that is back in the 80s, 70s, 80s, and even 90s, I guess, to a certain aspect, is if we went to Okotoks or High River or Lethbridge, or like that was something in the town to do. But now you have TV, you have internet, like there's so much entertainment at your hands that you don't need to leave your house.
Yeah, that's true.
Although with COVID now you can't, but
yeah, you're trapped now. Yeah, now would be the ultimate time to run indie shows,
but you know what I mean? Like, so right away, it just that alone, I think, also hinders the smaller companies when they try to run, because it costs so much to run, because in some places you got to pay commissions, you got to pay all that, like it to run a show. That's one thing I will be on the promoter side, from booking with companies and stuff, is like a lot of the workers don't realize how much it costs to run a show.
Yeah.
Like, and you've been there,
especially if you're doing it on the up and up, like paying your insurance and doing things right away, right?
Yeah, and so it's not cheap.
No, and it's hard. Like people don't. I remember one time running a show for that WCEW, and man, so much time went into this show between about 4 or 5 people building this show, and I'd specifically kind of told the company, like, don't run on the road, because I'd been running on the road for 5 years, and I knew it was the fastest way to lose all your money.
Yeah,
and so they insisted on going to Red Deer one time. And they worked their ass off to put this show together. So we're kind of debriefing after the show and say, so I'm like, okay, what's the net? Like, where are we at? What's I'm a bottom dollar kind of guy, because I didn't want to do it. So I wanted to know what exactly. And the one guy was so happy. He was really happy because we netted $400. And I started laughing, and he was really offended. I started laughing, right? And I was like, listen, how many man hours went into that show? And I said, the people that put that show together didn't get paid by this promotion. That was all volunteer labor. So if those people were getting paid, we probably lost about $5,000.
Oh yeah, or you made 7 cents an hour.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, how do you feel about working for much less than minimum wage?
Yeah,
right. Like,
that's awesome.
Yeah, indie wrestling's brutal, man. It's a tough dollar, and that's one thing. These guys that these talk shit about their promoters haven't been on both sides of that. Yeah, being a wrestling promoter is brutal. Like
and some promoters are great.
Yeah, the promoters are good, but it's a hard job.
And then some are carny as hell. It's like, yeah, you got your both.
Well, I think the ones like you called the ones earlier, like you got all these what I'll call mini Vince McMahon's paying their guys $20 a night, telling them they can't work anywhere, right? Like, dude, until you're actually I can make a living here, you can probably break off.
And I get the $20. Like I said, it costs a lot of. That's all they're bringing in, and I get that, because guys will work because they want the experience. So I'm not slagging that. I'm slagging the. Dude, don't act like you're a big shot billionaire, because you're not. You're
definitely. Well, and again, if you're only paying guys, that $20, let them go work the other shows, because they probably need that.
And you've seen these dudes that walk around that are running the show. Their show looks like garbage. They don't really put any props into it, but they walk around like they're the cock of the walk, and it's like. Ugh.
But this, I don't want to. This is going to sound really like a dickhead thing to say, but I'm kind of a dickhead, so I don't give a shit. But I often find a lot of those promoters that you just described are guys that either were untrained, tried to get in the business and couldn't get booked, or guys that were so shitty they couldn't get booked. So I'll just start my own promotion. And
they're all like that, and they're all the champion.
Exactly. Well, it's easy to be the champion when you're the booker, right? Like, who's running the show? Me. Who's the champ? Me. Have a nice day, boys. Here's your envelope. Thanks for putting.
I was always the anti-booker. If I booked anywhere, I wouldn't even book my own matches. I'd book every match on the show but my own. I would make the promoter or someone else book whatever I'm doing.
That's smart. Because there was a time I was booking for Stampede and PWA at the same time, and it was a nightmare.
Yeah.
Exactly like you say, I had a guy that I worked with in Edmonton, would come to all the Edmonton shows, and he phoned me one day at work in Calgary, and he goes, "Hey, man, you got to start winning some of those matches." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Well, we know you're going to lose as soon as you come out now." because I was the booker, so I never wanted to put myself over.
See, that's what I used to do, and everyone, the promoter would be like, "You need to." I was like, "Well, I can lose, and I'm still just as over. But if I put this other guy over, it's gonna propel him
Yeah.
higher or whatever." But
Exactly. Well, and I was always worried about perception, like, oh yeah, Jordy's just putting himself over because he's got the book again, Champ.
yeah, oh, that's so
Yeah,
hilarious.
I remember actually arguing with Kurt Sorokin at PWA because he wanted to be his heavyweight champion. I'm like, no, like it was such a hot debate. So like, I can't have the boys in the back, kind of
Yeah.
looking at me that way. And it got to a point where he literally said, okay, I signed the paychecks. This is my promotion. And I'm telling you as my booker, this is the character I want to. And at
That's
that
good.
point,
The
I was
promoter,
like, okay,
the promoter made the call, not you.
Yeah. So it was one of those, and most of the time, to be quite honest, Bill Bell that I worked for in Stampede and current PWA always were really good about giving me kind of full creative freedom, unless I wanted to do something ridiculous. But I'm pretty lazy, so nothing was really ridiculous.
Oh, that's awesome.
So yeah, do you got anything else? Tell me where people can get a hold of you. What's your social media?
Well, I got on Instagram, Dr. Luther, and on Twitter, it's Kill Luther Kill. And I got a new podcast. I have a new podcast starting on Monday. March 1st is the first show. It's going to be a video cast on YouTube, and it'll also be on all your streaming platforms.
Oh, that's awesome. What's
Luther's
that
World of Cryptids, Ghosts, and the Unexplained.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So I just today, I'm not, like I said, I'm not sure when you're airing this, but today, the 26th,
yeah,
I have put up the trailer for it. So
okay, well, either way, I mean, I'm going to push this a little bit, big secret for the people watching here. Just because I started booking interviews and sort of booked 5 or 6 interviews within about 5 or 6 days. So it's like, okay, well, I guess you got a month and a half worth of content. But like I say, share your links and stuff with me. Make sure I get those, and I will.
I sure will.
Yeah, I'll make sure we pump the shit out of that one, because it's now we're peers, right? Before it was, I want to talk one more thing before we go. Now that we've blown my load, and I just want to ask this one question: what did it feel like signing your first national contract at 51?
It was amazing. So it was kind of a weird story. So I had caught, this was before COVID had hit. I caught like a bronchitis, which it's so funny too, now that COVID's here. All of a sudden people think, oh, you don't get the flu or the cold or stuff that you would have used to get. Like it's right away you got COVID. It's like, no, all that other stuff is still here.
Yeah, if you get diarrhea, you got COVID now.
Yeah. So I had bronchitis, which I did end up taking a test, and it was bronchitis, not COVID. It was just because I've had it before. You catch it easy, whatever. But anyway, so I had this, and I was slated to wrestle, but I was not feeling good. But I'm old school. I'll have one leg hanging off. I'll still go and wrestle. It's like whatever. So, but then the doc's like, no, you gotta sit off this week, and because the docs, if something's wrong, like. That's one thing great about AEW. If something's wrong, like you're not going to lose your job. You don't have to be scared. Like
you're not going to lose your spot because you were sick.
Yeah, but then I get told, oh, you got to have a meeting. You're called in for a meeting with the brass, and I thought it was about getting pulled off the show, and I was like, I'm going to get like they're letting me go because at first I'm on an entry level contract when you come in or whatever. And I'm like, so I go in, and I was gonna tell them like, I'll do it. Like I don't like, I'll still go do it. But then they offered me the contract, and I was like, oh my god, that's great. And so
you went from thought you were getting released to offered a contract.
Yeah. So
oh man, that's the way this should work.
It was super awesome. And then part of it, like now I live in Atlanta, and I train at the Nightmare Factory as well, or coach there, and so that was kind of in there, and then. Did some producing a couple times, did some producing backstage, but it's fun. I love going to coaching, like help training the guys and the girls down there. It's awesome. And I love seeing all the people trying super hard and really learning stuff. Like you can just feed off that,
so it's fun for you to watch the light bulbs come on, right?
Yeah, it's awesome. And so getting that contract was like just amazing to me. Finally, like I've had contracts like obviously going to Japan and stuff like that, but not here, like not like this
national TV. I mean, that's so good, man.
and then getting tagged with Serpentico has been great. Chaos Project. We're working our way up from Dark, and we've been on Dynamite quite a bit this year already. So I think, I just look forward to the future, and I think it's great. And I think wrestling is getting bigger and big. It's getting back to what it used to be, really.
Yeah, it's coming back healthy.
Yeah,
for sure. On that note, brother, I'm gonna let you go. I won't take up too much of your Friday afternoon here.
Thanks for having me on, man. It's great talking to you.
Oh man, thank you so much. We'll have to do this again. I want after you've been with AEW a little time, and I'm gonna come bug you for a bunch of industry secrets here.
Yeah, I would love to be on again, man.
Right on, man. Appreciate you coming on. Sorry, everybody. My good friend Luther from AEW. Thank you so much for coming on the show, man. It means a lot to me.
No problem. Thanks, brother.
Have a good one. Thanks, pal.